Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
I don't know. Perhaps what they are doing is one of the answers to the topic,
Okay,
to the
okay.
questions. Okay.
Very good.
But the priority for today is just to think about what are we going to answer to those
Slawek.
challenges
Okay.
or questions. Okay.
Very
And
good.
I think it's very important.
Okay, very good, very good.
I think that yesterday we presented what are our proposals, our ideas, okay, and that was needed. But we have, this is a dialogue, and the other side, meaning Slawek, asked us about some very specific topics, and I think that we should make a exercise of what do we think that can be the best answers to those topics.
Yeah, yeah. Very good.
Good morning, bonjour, Hervé.
Buenos días, Antonio. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning, Silvia. Guten Morgen, Ula.
Good morning, Antonio.
Nice to see you
Good
here.
morning. Hi.
Hi, Silvia. Happy to hear you.
Happy to be here as well.
So it's time to start. We have changed the agenda. You know that we always put in the emails that the agenda is flexible, and in this case, I think it was needed to change it because yesterday we had a very important conversation with Slawek Tokarski. We gave him our perspective, what we have been putting together over the table and our reflections. But he also asked us about some key points for him, for his directorate. So the proposal for today is to think about them. Probably there are a lot of our subjects that fit on those questions, but some other perhaps not. And we need to make a collective exercise of reflection on them. Okay, so that's the proposal for today. We will not follow, again, sorry, we will be flexible and we will not follow the usual rules. Okay, we will try to be very quick in our very to the point in our intervention. That will be again the main rule. Okay, but the proposal is to go through these questions and take a kind of brainstorming about what do you think are the possible answers to them. Okay, so the Slawek, sorry, divided those questions in two categories. One is the exit strategy, so now or in few weeks, and the other one is the recovery strategy, mainly focused on funding. I will add to those main questions any other point that we see critical, because it's important to be able to be proactive and give him also our feedback, not only on those questions. Okay, but speaking about exit strategy, there were also 3 points: the rapid alert function, the antitrust guidance, and how to improve the lack of PPEs. I will start from the first one, the rapid alert function. I don't know, Ula, perhaps you could update us in what is the general idea that you have on this point at this moment, and we could start from that information.
Okay, so the background on this is that the Commission has issued an exit strategy last week, but in a quite general terms. And the part of economic was a quite small chapter in the exit strategy because the focus was more on other topics. But in the economic chapter, we have put in the rapid alert function. The rapid alert function is about that once we start, that we would need to know where are the bottlenecks, where are supply chain disruptions, but also what are elements which need to be taken on, also not thinking of, and also for what are critical companies in the supply chain, which due to the fact that they might not have liquidity or so, that they have a risk of being bought by foreign investors or disappear. But as they would have a critical function in the supply chain or the value chain, that would disrupt the whole value chain. And our argument was that clusters can identify, because clusters know very well the companies within their cluster and the roles these companies have in the value chain. So that was our argument why we need to have clusters being part of this exit strategy, because they can help us to identify. That's why the chapter reads that SME intermediaries such as EEN and clusters, chambers of commerce, should have this rapid alert function. And of course, now the next step is that we have to propose these rapid alert functions. As we had proposed clusters, so now is also your moment where you could tell us what you could do, because like this, we can work it in the detailed strategy, because we are now working on documents, how this rapid alert function could look like. And also, for example, if you have ideas, because some of you are maybe already working with E and European Enterprise Network or Chambers of Commerce. So also, if you have ideas about the links with the others, that would also be appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, if I can come in on this and add maybe something to what Ola said.
Sorry, Slawek, I didn't show you. You're very welcome. Sorry. Welcome.
No, I think it is something in the making, right? The simplest thing that was, I think, occurring to our minds was that the industrial activity or economic activity starts resuming, and all of a sudden we see that for an important value chain or ecosystem, we are missing some components, either because this company is the third country and there are no deliveries from there, or either because this company is in another member states and there, because of administrative quarantine whatsoever, this company cannot provide the component that is really critical for the whole value chain, for a complex product. So the idea was that you are the best place to alert us about something like this, to find out maybe the solution, another company temporarily replacing this one or permanently replacing this one, or you can spot some sort of administrative disruption that is preventing you from functioning properly. In this case, we can intervene very quickly and try to fix it. So these are the very initial ideas. But you know better how value chains, how your clusters function. So if there are more ideas, we are more than happy to listen to them and take them on board. Thank you.
Perfect. I think it's very clear. So we are speaking about mapping value chains and analyzing the strategic value of every part of those value chains. Comments from those that are there.
Hello, can I say something, Antonio?
Jaime,
Very
go
quickly.
on.
Thank you very much. No, I would like to speak about Mariana Mazzucato ideas. As you know, she's very expert on the value creating. That is the intelligent value chain. I think this is the time to try to focus on intelligent value chains, and I will give two examples. First, I was speaking yesterday with Vasco about that. The idea of creating what we can call suppliers clubs. We have here this experience with Volkswagen and with Peugeot, that is to try to aggregate all different kinds of areas, suppliers that could complement their offer and to be in a position to supply with more efficiency the needs that we have. So this, I think, is a very good idea. The suppliers club trying to create this in a very efficient and most of the times digital way. The second example I like to give concerns logistics. We need to be very efficient in terms of logistics. I think that the digital dimension will be in this area very, very important. And I think it will be very important to share between different clusters, different experience of logistics. So it's easier to put the goods and the raw materials and the other goods in the companies to put that. So I think this concept of intelligent value chain, something very practical, very efficient, could be useful to this time of recovery. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaime. More comments? I have invited to this session to Celine. Celine,
Hello.
bienvenue. Hello,
Thank
she is a specialist on this area.
Yes, I was thinking of first how to focus on the right machine or materials able to make some transfers, and so how to identify these flexible let's say tools that the industry have to adapt to different as the example of automobile, how some machine could be adapted to produce other things and how to put them together. So in my point of view, yes, it's important to map the value chains, but also to link them, to identify inside all the tools that are flexible and how to link them. So a kind of multi-layer approach. So to identify all the value chain and then to see how they can be combined. But I don't know how to do that yet. But you know, the main idea, I think the combination is very important.
I think this is the one. If we need to map, this is a perfect space for you applying artificial intelligence. We were speaking about ontologies some months ago, and ontologies is exactly that, is the capacity to define capacities at the minimum level and to be able to analyze them and create complex combination of them. Okay, so it's very, very technical, but we should explore this the capacity to create intelligent maps or resources based on ontologies, on semantic ontologies. Okay, and applying over then artificial intelligence analytics. Okay, but it's very, very to the point. But before going so down level, I would like to hear opinions from others.
Yes, Daniel Koșniță from the Romanian Cluster Association. So I think that we have, we are talking from the time perspective. This is on short term and on medium and long term. On medium and long term, it is about restructuring the value chains and things at European level. But on short term, I think. First of all, because Ula mentioned the Enterprise Europe network, in the Enterprise Europe network, there is a thematic group clusters called clusters, which have so regional contacts in all of Europe and beyond, which deal from the side of the Enterprise Europe network with clusters. So I think that this is from the point of view, these are the points which should alert on these disruptions, because so we as representatives of clusters or cluster associations, and the other we are talking about over 100 and something people, and I think that we have this is on a very short time. I think we can organize a joint meeting also with these thematic group clusters, and that these people and us engage in this alert issue. And the second point is to have to define the platform or how this should take place, and maybe the ASME and the platform that the EN is providing as a tool for matchmaking can be used now for this alert. This will be a very short-term solution to use the platform that the EN already has for internal matchmaking, make perhaps a separate section now for alert prototyping, passing over the checks that are being done there on a regular basis to be more rapid and to identify on a very short notice these missing links in the value chain and giving solutions. So this is a very short time frame, and then in the longer run, we must think how we solve this. Yeah.
Daniel, do you know that platform? Because I don't know it.
Yes, but I'm a member, and
we are not thinking about matchmaking on that moment. As far as I understand, it's not a question of matchmaking.
Yeah, but it's a question of somebody says, help, this I need here I am disrupted, here I'm missing something. Yeah. And then somebody else should try to come with an offer where there is a demand. So for me, this is matchmaking. This is trying to solve some missing links in the value chains, which affect which disrupted those value chains, and this is on a very short term. Maybe the term matchmaking is not the most appropriate one, but yeah, this is what we need, or not? Or did I misunderstand?
Antonio, can I say something?
Just one moment, Vasco. Just one moment, because I don't know if you are going in the same direction or not, Vasco. This is something that we should clarify. In my mind, we were not speaking about a matchmaking tool between needs and solutions. In my mind, we were speaking about a strategic or general mapping and going to the details to identify critical points, okay, but not just to solve immediate needs from companies. I could be wrong.
Well, to me, these are we talk about rapid alert function. So the mapping, general mapping, I agree. On the medium and longer term, we should do a thorough, fully done value chain analysis at European level. And of course, clusters are very useful tool. But what about rapid alert? This I understood also from Mr. Tokarski, that we need a rapid alert to answer rapidly.
Slawek, sorry, are we speaking about matching tools between needs and solutions?
Well, alert is about spotting this misfunctionality, right? So it is the first step. Now the second step is a little bit open. I think if you look at the exit strategy at point 3E, and it says, how could we patch the missing elements in the value chains? So it's also about a sort of quick fix for the situation. That is how I understand it.
Okay, so Daniel is right. and we should speak about how to match them. But we have a tool. We have a tool in the ECCP.
Yes, but the EN is more complex, and the EN, the Enterprise Europe Network. So there you describe in detail what you want. It's a profile. It's done for that. This is because I know it. We can discuss which is better. It was not the it is not the main aim of the enterprise of the ACCP to identify I don't know some machinery or microscope which is doing this or that, but this is exactly what the Enterprise Europe Network platform is doing. So in Enterprise Europe Network, you describe exactly what you need or what you offer, and this is something that Enterprise Europe Network has been doing over the last 20 years. And we should, I mean, we can look into it, and this is the system that functions. And why shouldn't we use it now for rapid rapid response? Yeah, and we have these 100 and something thematic points clusters which are all over Europe. We must use them, and also us, the cluster associations, and so I think we can join forces, and at least we have to have I propose to have a joint meeting with them. So yeah.
Daniel, I think that's what Antonio has been trying since the beginning of those meetings. I've seen already several invitations to the entire Europe to bring their people into these meetings. And I'm sorry, I'm not from a cluster, and I'm disappointed with the reactions. We rarely see some Nordic countries never come. Countries that are more developed, sometimes one person comes here. It's for someone that does not belong to clusters, this is a disappointment. All of the southern countries are contributing a lot, are coming here every day or mostly every day. So we have to count with those that work.
No,
yes, but I mean, yes, this is true. But I mean,
we should not enter on that discussion because we will lose time. It's a very interesting approach. It's a very interesting approach, Daniel. I think that we should explore it. Okay, Vasco.
Yes. Well, thank you very much also for the idea about using the matchmaking tool. But sorry, at this moment, for instance, we put in place some marketplace applications focused on medical needs. I think that some of those applications can also be used to at least help to solve these problems. And as far as I know, some of them, they look for the near entities that can supply others. So even those marketplace applications could help in terms of regional cohesion, in terms of identifying the chains that are broken and that can be solved with the help of other entities and so on. So maybe there are some solutions already in place. It's a question of looking at them and try to increase their focus and apply the intelligent. Yeah.
I understand that there is, if I understand right, there is a need for a matching tool between needs and solutions. And I think that it should be one, if possible, one tool for all across Europe. If the EEN has it, why not? But we should explore it in another session. I would propose to have another session on that. It could be tomorrow, okay? And we could look for them, and we could invite them, somebody to present those tools, okay? So this is one point. I will close here because we have 1 hour and we need to cover a lot of points, okay? We should look for that, okay?
Antonio, Carlos here, if you allow me to 1 minute. In fact, I was here 3 weeks ago, I guess, exactly to say and to share that we were developing demand and need to to do the supply cross country. So it's ready, it's done, and we are more than keen to show to the group because it's ready to go live. We already having been done tests, and I think it's exactly to fulfill the needs, and also can be used to identify holes in the supply chain. It's fully ready. We will be also in the hackathon, and it was a pleasure to show that to you.
Thank you, Carlos. You are invited to do so. We could organize it. I will look for tomorrow's session. I don't remember, but it's about research and innovation. Now, tomorrow we will speak about that. Okay, we will not change the Thursday because it's about funding, and the Friday is about social economy. But tomorrow we can speak about that. I think it's very important. Okay, very urgent. Okay, next point. We need, this is one tool, it's good, okay, we will look for immediate needs and solutions, but we need to create a general map of the value chains, okay? Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think Daniel Koschnitzer again. I think that clusters are a very useful tool to map the value chains, and I think everybody is convinced. So I don't have to make a big theory. Also in international theory, this is one of the methods that value chains are mapped. And so, for example, we in Romania, taking as an example, but I think this is also for the Eastern Europe, it is relevant. We are captive on the value chains in the middle. That we have problems also with supplying, with problems also clients. So, and this was a problem of the Romanian economy also until now even more, and this is why we have started to map the value chains in Romania via the clusters, well, this is, and also made recommendation in the new, and the results have been sent to the Ministry of Economy and have been taken over in the a new industrial policy document of Romania. So I think that we can do first of all a qualitative mapping of the value chains, given the starting from the members that our clusters have
Daniel,
around
Daniel, I want to hear everybody. Please, to the point.
So I think we can start, yes, methodologically speaking, with a qualitative analysis of the value chains via the clusters. So I think this is the way that we can do it.
Thank you. Perfect. More opinions, more references, more proposals. I want to hear everybody. Please don't repeat if Selim, but to the point, because we have only 1 hour.
Okay, if I can speak. So Sylvain Bremont from the French cluster, so South of France on energy. I just have a very simple question. The question is, are we talking about the present value chains, or do we think that we have to change also the steering of the economy, and for example, linked with the Green Deal, and that we have to build new value chain, or at least to think of them, because it's not the same work just to keep on doing business as usual, or trying to try to help to steer the change.
I will say, Slawek is here, but I will say that for sure we need to map the current ones and to think about how should look the new ones.
Yes, I mean, this is certainly a dynamic situation. So on one hand, if you also look at the slide, there is this idea of giving liquidity at the same time fostering green and digital transition. So we are not looking in a sort of coming back to the status quo if possible. But also in this work, we can, I think, spot a new emerging value chains that are also important for the future of the economy. For example, the hydrogen value chain, which seems to have a big potential both in terms of the production of green hydrogen, distribution, and the industrial use, is one of those emerging value chains that has a big potential for the economy and for the recovery of European economy.
Thank you. Hervé.
Yeah. Can I?
Yes. No, sorry, Celine. Before it's Hervé.
Okay.
Hervé Flock. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Very frankly, I'm a bit confused. Why? I try to understand myself. I think we have the rapid alert function, so we talk about. This is the absolute priority. I bet that we have some lack in value chains concerning the how could I say, trying to solve this crisis on very precise production of materials. For me, this is the absolute priority. So the difficulty for me is to have a good and quick diagnostics at the European level. So we have value chains for producing a face mask, gloves, clothes, and testing kits, and that's the current priority for me. And we should. That's my point of view. Okay, we should concentrate on those days. So mapping value chains, as far as I know, has been a strong efforts in the past. ECCP has been working on that, as far as I know. So this is a long-term and intensive work to be done, especially if we want to address all the industry value chains. So for me today, I thought that we were talking about finding a pragmatic solution between clusters and maybe EEN members to strengthen our joint action to have a diagnostic on the value chains that are of absolute priority by those days. So I think we have already many tools, and we don't need to add more and more toolings. That's my point of view. We should definitely try to list, maybe coherently with what we have as sections, on the ECCP COVID-19 platform. We have very precise and relevant section. Are we able to have the value chains, and are we able to identify what is the main lack? What is the main disruption? Are we able to identify who is able to bring something? That was my opinion when connecting this morning. So on the long-term basis, no doubt it will be nice to have for all the industries at the European level a mapping of value chains. But this is a huge and time-consuming work. So that's what I have in mind. I think we have already some sections with well identify needs. Can we have the picture of the value chains? Can we identify where are the disruption? And if that's the case, so then we embark in this rapid alert function we need on a short-term basis now. And we have the possibility to be connected with EEN rapidly. So that's my point of view this morning.
Thank you, Hervé. I think that we are speaking about immediate actions, so medium range action and the long range action. Okay, and as far as I understand, the rapid alert function is between the immediate and the medium range. And I totally agree with you that we have the information. The cluster has the information about which are the main missing elements on the value chains now. But we need to agree on a global view of global reporting on that. And we haven't until now. You probably have the information on France and Daniel on Romania and Teresa Gerdes in Germany. Okay, but I totally see that they need to agree on a methodology, on a tool.
But how? I agree with you. We have some, respectively some bricks, let's say, available on our respective part. But how? I don't know. How could we have the global picture on each
That's the question.
Value chain?
That's the question, and could be answered through the rapid alert function. The problem here is
which means
between
that
now that Ula is not hearing us, okay, and Slawek, is that we need resources to do that, because we are working on a voluntary basis, and this is a lot of work.
I know,
and we need resources.
So that's why I said for the yes, I definitely, especially for mapping value chains, it needs a very intense resource, and it's a time-consuming process again. So for the needs related to the current COVID-19 crisis, could we maybe use the platform to build the value chains for each product needed, and see in this cluster community who is at which place in the value chains, who can be helpful for another one. Could we work on something like this? Very simple. It's a very pragmatic approach, Antonio. You know me.
No, that's good. Celine.
Yes, I agree.
Very quick.
I agree totally. But in the short term, what is important is not to map the existing value chains that exist in the industries and clusters, but to identify the needed value chains and to explore the different clusters and industries to build this value chain. So not mapping the existing value chain, but the requested value chain, the value chain we need, and so to build them.
We need to map the system because we have problems with the existing ones. That's the main topic here.
It is different to map everything and to target on what we need. So to identify first the needs as it is written, and to search only in the short term. In a long term, you're right. I think that it is needed to map all the value chains, but in the urgent term, in the urgent immediate term, I think that it is much more effective to go directly to the needs, and to not to try to map everything, but only targeting on the needs and searching the needs. But just I wanted to add something. I think it's a very good idea for a starting to base on the existing clusters, which is a very good base. But what about outside the clusters? And then, of course, there are tools and database for that also to find outside the clusters, which could enrich a lot also the future of the clusters and make the process much more dynamic than only exploring where there is a light. You know, it is when you search your key, if you search only where is the light, if it is outside the light, you cannot find it. So to explore both, well, starting with the clusters, but trying also to go outside the clusters.
Yeah, perfect.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Celine. I didn't introduce you. Would you share with the audience who are you, your profile, Celine?
I am professor at the University of Lausanne. I am in urban and economic geography, and where we launched with Antonio and many other people, we are 20 teams, a very big program, a European program on mapping and exploring and making dynamic models on clusters and outside clusters at the European scale.
Yes, something like in January we presented the proposal. Okay, thank you. New voices, please.
Can I say something, Antonio? Oh.
Okay, go on.
Thank you. So I'm not an expert in value chains. What I see is that it's not just about brokerage in this rapid fixing and rapid, well, these shortages. I also experience it as a lot of what you could call Apollo 13 moments, which you cannot just put into a component-based ontology or whatever. This is more about very much like these hackathons, these kind of challenges, which are very difficult to map in a formal way. So you can share them in like best practices, in stories, in narratives, in a sense, and also in some designs of solutions that work with alternative components. Like I'm now suddenly an expert in non-woven textiles, working with ultrasonic tools, and most of the ultrasonic tools are not available anymore. So now we have alternatives and alternatives to alternatives. So the value chain as it was didn't work, and we found other kind of solutions. And we can share that, but I'm not sure whether we can share it in a regular kind of brokerage system or in another mapping system, because it's a very temporary kind of thing. So it also has to do with best practices. That's all.
You're totally right. That's why we need something very, very, very quick and very, very flexible to solve immediate needs. And yeah, the mapping is for more medium term, I suppose. Okay. Thank you, Joke. More comments.
Hello, Antonio, Pauline speaking. So we have an efficient tool for cluster working on value chain, which is InnoSup project. So perhaps we can also use the past consortia in different InnoSup projects to work on specific value chain. That can be a tool with consortia, European consortia already gathered.
I think so. That's something that we spoke about in some sessions before, and I totally agree. It's something that we should propose to ULA and Slawek, but I think that it makes sense to realign the priorities of those projects.
Ilaria speaking. I would like to make a suggestion. Instead of now identifying the actors that can be involved in this, I mean, it's really good to be clear about what we need to achieve as result, as information mapped, because each territory is very different from each other. And I think that for sure, of course, cluster network is the very best tool to use, but it is not the only one for all the locations. in some territory, a very strong partnership with the Chamber of Commerce is essential in doing this. And so European situations are very different. So instead, yes, then we can involve all the actors needed, and cluster can do the main role. But and as someone before me told, the qualitative mapping is for sure a task of clusters, but I think it's very important to focus exactly on the list of information we would like to achieve practically.
So we should create the skeleton of the idea and propose it to Slawek or to the EN or to the rest of the alert force, something like that. More comments.
Veronica from Italy.
Veronica.
So I'm thinking while listening to you,
You sounds very, very far.
Sorry. Is it better now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very good. I'm having this in these minutes in mind one tool that DigiTrade uses to identify trade barriers. Okay, it is the MADB, Market Access Database. It is, to me, that works very much in internationalization of companies. It's a very great tool to be used to know what kind of barriers are in place in every country outside Europe in this sense. So to me, a possible solution would be to create a similar alert system. So how does it work? MADB, that companies or their intermediaries like clusters or chambers of commerce inform the European Commission about barriers that are encountered. They can be either problems in this case of laws, rules, or new taxes, or the making India or making in USA policies and so forth. Can we learn something from the way MADB works? Because at the very end, if I'm not wrong, what the rapid alert function aims to understand is identify bottlenecks. Let me say once again, it's disruptions, okay? Possibly deriving from asymmetrical lifting of containment measures. This means something that will come, because up to now, most of EU countries are under lockdown. So more or less we are at the same level. So no asymmetry somehow still have taken place, or even businesses going bankrupt. But bankrupt of businesses, I'm afraid, will come massively in the next few months. Okay, so if I read the roadmap, the text of the roadmap about the rapid alert function, I understand that it is to identify something that will come. So maybe we can put in place something very effective, learning from previous or similar identification of barriers, and how to nurture the information. Of course, in this sense, the clusters are very good antennas like chambers of commerce and the like, but also directly the companies. So maybe providing and sharing the fact that there is one email address where to where to communicate the kind of disruptions that we are experiencing. And then at that point, some artificial intelligence can derive and gather as clusters of data, in this sense, clusters of data, to see that we have a big problem on in certain areas or in certain sectors, or let's say and products or raw materials. We need.
Veronica, that sounds very, very interesting. Who could present us that tool? You? Tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yes, sure.
Could you prepare some kind of document presentation
Yes.
just to advance, because it looks very, very good.
Sure, with pleasure.
Please share it in the Slack channel, and we could study it, and it sounds very well for me. I don't know what is the opinion of the rest. Okay, please do it, and we will let you present it tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Veronica. More. We have 10 minutes.
Antonio, this is Jorge Gonzalez from TPMed. I don't know if this is the right time, but I would like to talk about the recovery strategy. I think we have been focused more on point number one. But I think recovery strategy is very, very important, in my opinion, especially where the money should go to make sense. I think everything is, at the end of the day, is critical to identify the right instruments and the right incentives for the companies or for whoever is the beneficiary of that money, so that not only enables to recover, but that we recover in a stronger way, maybe more competitive, whatever you want, the adjective you want to use. And how to manage that is tricky, because people will be tempted to do the usual things, just spreading around money in the sectors that they need it the most, but without incentives to take this crisis as an opportunity to jump into a better competitive state of the economy, the companies themselves. So I don't know how to drive that conversation. You know that in Spain we have created a working group to talk about that, but I think that this should be tackled also at European level.
Yeah, we will have a session on funding next Thursday. Marek has confirmed us that he will be with us. Okay, it will be the perfect session to speak about this.
Okay.
To dedicate all the session to that. So, and we can bring then the reflections, the ideas that we can recover from our different groups. I know that you are meeting today at 1:30, especially here in Spain, about that. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jorge. More voices.
Yes, Antonio, this is Gilles from Greenway.
Bienvenue.
May I add something though? I heard a lot of very good things this morning. A very good morning to everyone. One comment, because when I joined this group three or 1 month ago, I told you that I had two goals. The first one was to deal with the emergency of the crisis, and the second one, which is finally more the objective of this network, is to deal with the after crisis and the bad economic situation we will cope with. I think we need, and I hope not to be too negative. This is not the point, but we are not the main actors of this crisis. The main actors are in the hospitals. They are doctors, they are nurses, and they take care of people. And we need to keep our place and I think that's the same for all of us. We have two main objectives as clusters: is to increase the economy of our regions, and I would like to be sure that at the end of this crisis, in the post-crisis, in the after-crisis situation, we will remain at our place, and we will try to help our companies, but in all sectors, because I'm working on chemistry, construction, and environment, and all the companies in our cluster will be affected and concerned by the situation. And I want to be sure, because we are talking about value chains. Yes, of course, this is a great objective, but we need to be sure that all the sectors will be supported, that we will bring the support to all sectors. It would be unfeasible to try to create a great value chain, a big value chain with all the clusters involved this morning, because all sectors are represented here. And I want to be sure that all the sectors will be supported. And I think right now we really need to make the difference between the emergency of the situation, and that's why we are here today, to try to bring some experts to deal with the crisis. And after that, we have to rethink the way we can share together. Of course, we will not talk to everybody every morning after the crisis, but I'm sure that within this network, I could work with 3, 4, or 5 of them on a specific value chain. I don't know if it's understandable, because totally. I have my 3 young children just behind me. It's difficult to.
No, you are totally right. I think that we understand that perfectly. Every sector of the economy will suffer. Is suffering.
Yeah, that's my point. And we do not need to imagine that we will solve all the economic problem all together. But I think maybe we should create some different task force within this network according to the sectors we are working with, and sometimes maybe have a plenary session once a month, but every week with different task force, we would gather together to think about the way we could animate our own network and share the best practice together.
Gilles, you are wonderful with your ideas. That's perfect. I think it makes sense to create subgroups by main areas of sectors. We could define that. It makes sense. And we could look for
and we will be more efficient. You know, if we compare with the European strategy and with European call and funding to create the different task force, but we need to be aligned with the European Commission fundings, and it will be more efficient if we discuss in small group, and the thematics will be quite easy to find. We know all the priorities of the EU Commission. And at the end of the month, we can share all the work we did in subgroups. That was my point.
I would propose to share once a week, because.
Once a week,
yeah. Why not? Would you? Who will draw the list of possible? I would not
good
like.
Morning. Yeah, it's Anais. I actually, because I've been doing the agenda and trying to get the ideas together, I fully agree with Gilles. I think the discussion, maybe we need some focus, so it's easier to discuss in subgroup. I can try to do a first list of subgroup of discussion if you want. I think the main aspect here that I have actually enjoyed in the past weeks is the cross sector. So very different people from very different sectors discussing together solutions, because that's also, I think somebody said before, the idea that, okay, we can map the existing value chain, but we could be also innovative in what can come next. And that is because of the discussion that we had every morning. I think that we are very close to what actually can come next, because the way it's been worked and the way we've discussed, we know what has been working. So I can try to draft a first list of these subgroups. And I think that would be actually very interesting, because what I get from the discussion this morning is that there are already a lot of mapping tools in different ways, so we could start on that ground. But what we can bring, the added value of this group and this discussion, is what comes next, I think, personally. And I will ask anyway the questions to the clusters from CIBER, but I think it's yeah.
I'm sure that the ECCP will be a good helper in this point, okay? Because they know, okay, the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, and probably I'm sure that Ula and Slawek will have the suggestion, but please do it, and we could review that list tomorrow.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm in the hackathon too, so I'll
Yes,
try my
Antonio.
best.
I think Antonio, yes, for your link to the ECCP, we can extract some information. So maybe Anais, if afterwards also together with Eva, you could look into this, and then you get information from there. I will make sure that she contacts you.
Perfect. Great.
So Slawek, I would like, Anula, I would like to hear your impressions, because we should close soon. Slawek?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, because I was just getting
Yes,
my
we are
mic ready
closing.
to...
Sorry, we are closing, and I would like to hear your impression about the discussion, and if you have any last comment to take in account from us.
Yes, very quickly. I think we a little bit, I mean, this is the difficulty of the discussion, that we are a little bit mixing exit strategy with recovery strategy. And I still think it would make sense to discuss a little bit, where the money should go, because one way or another there will be money, and we really need to take care that this money is used to the best for the European economy, because there will be this tendency to sprinkle it around in a sort of equal way for everybody, and the first knee-jerk reaction will be to come back to what people were doing before the crisis. And we were thinking, for example, I mean, if you think about area of tourism, is there a way to give a grant to tourist enterprise, that this grant could be used, for example, for the digital green transformation, especially now when there are no clients? At the same time, once this investment is made, the company could get a sort of certification. So they moved, one step forward on the way of green and digital transformation. This type of thinking. This is something that is still missing, and we would like to discuss it. Then about this rapid alert, I think, of course, on one hand, somebody said about this Apollo 13 moments, and this is the biggest priority, just to find a fix now, here and now, and we don't need for this a sort of super duper system. On the other hand, we have to think a little bit ahead. So if we have next health crisis, and I will use Carol's example, and if we are lacking artificial kidneys, how we are going to get there? So there must be lesson learned, and there must be something in place that would allow us to act differently next time. And then the issue of restructuring, because we will see one way or another a lot of people laid off. And many of them will be highly qualified. It will be not only people with low skills, but also people that are highly qualified in different sectors. What we do with those people, if we have a good idea about the value chain, about what we need and where, probably that would be also one of the ways of helping those people and finding the employment for them. And finally, the issue which is also I think it's not only for you, it's also for us, the issue of representation and this lack of colleagues from the northern countries or even from Central European countries. This is something on which I think we should work together. And let's think. I think we could maybe bring in or find a topic that could be interesting also to clusters from Central and Northern Europe. We have to think it well, and then we would make personal effort also ourselves in the Commission to bring in at least a couple of clusters that we know well, just to start somewhere. Okay. Otherwise, thank you very much for your discussion, and I'm taking out a lot of ideas, and well, looking forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Slawek, for coming here with us, and thank you, everybody. And we meet tomorrow, 8:30, and the topic will be tools for the matchmaking between needs and solution. Or other topic will be tools for the not so immediate needs, but the mapping of the value chains. Okay, and the third one will be to review the list of possible subgroups. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.